Welcome today. After so many years of not being physically in an event, it's also kind of tense for me, right, to do a presentation again. But happy to be here. My name is, as shown on the screen, Steven. I'm not going to bother you with the Dutch surname, but it's Vlastra, for those who want to practice. I'm leading the group of pre-sales engineers that are scattered around Europe for our network security solution set, particularly in the Symantec cybersecurity area, of course. Today I want to talk to you a little bit around some security engagements and what that could mean from a strategy point of view. Where do we see our security footprint in the next couple of years? Maybe 5 years out, maybe shorter. And some enterprises will get there sooner and later. But as everything is driven by a digital transformation force, we will see what happens. But let's quickly go into today's topic. First of all, as Tommy also explained, I realize that it's confusing for somebody that has not been in our company so much to see where is it. Is it a Broadcom company? What happened to Symantec Solutions? We know them for years. What is going on with you guys? So, gonna do a quick history on that one. But I'll promise you the next couple of slides are obviously around the security side of the portfolio that I would like to discuss with you today. If you look at the Broadcom software group, right, we all know Broadcom from being a hardware vendor, a chip producing factory, and we're probably in this component itself at this point in time. For us, for my colleagues here in the room as well, we are part of the software entity. So we form two sides of the equation. First side is the infrastructure piece. It's going to be out of scope for today. I'm positioned well on the other side, and it's my personal preference, obviously. It's on the security side of the portfolio. And in particular, I'm responsible for the network security solutions, which I did already disclose with my title. But nevertheless, you can also think about endpoint security solutions, identity management solutions, payment security, how to provide security around credit card transactions and so on, fraud, and all of that stuff. Around history, Symantec, right? Probably very well-known brand over the last 3-4 decades even, I would say. But it went in, like this morning discussed in the technology advanced stages over those years, we've also advanced. And we've moved from acquisition to acquisition, and we have been giving a leadership position in identifying solutions that was brought to the market pretty early already. Think about zero trust network access with our acquisition back in 19 about Luminate. But even before that, Elastica for CASB solutions was already there when I still joined the Blue Coat days, right? So, nevertheless, today we are within our business unit, 1,400 engineers working on our solutions to provide you the telemetry, the intelligence to protect your estate. With different solutions, whether it's focused on the endpoint, whether it's focused on email, data protection, or as I said, in the network security space. Just take one step back. What are customers being faced today? And we typically address 3 sorts of challenges nowadays. And the first challenge, I think we all will be faced sooner or later, or we're already in the middle of it. Think about GDPR and maybe the DORA regulations that are coming up towards us. Not going to discuss in depth those regulations and compliance controls at all today, because we could spend the rest of the day on that topic alone. But imagine that organizations, enterprises, partners, who else we can think of, need to spend their IT budgets on to be compliant in that perspective, in order to run their business, to operate that stuff. So a lot of things being driven through compliance and regulations might become a big challenge for our solutions. Whether you like it or not, and it's a little bit blurry, I realize that on the screen, my apologies for that. Remote working, specifically after the COVID situation, is not going away anymore, right? People will probably be hybrid. Some days they work in the office, the other days they work from a remote location. I'm located from the Netherlands, and we don't have an office anymore. So I work 100% remote, right? My peers are scattered around Europe. We work in teams and virtually collaborating on projects. This is going to be the new workforce if we are already in the middle of it. We have experienced that for the last 2 years, and now we come to more like an efficiency point. Nevertheless, for organizations itself, it means pretty much on the security side. How do you protect all these inbound flows on the VPN gateway? Do we have enough capacity? Can we provide all the tools? The offices are empty. What do we do with the space? Well, and so on. Another constant factor is the fact that the threat landscape keeps evolving, right? Maybe the bad guys took a break in the early days of COVID. They had to stay at home as well. But after that, I think they were even more aggressive, right? Ransomware is highly targeted, highly customized to address those specific individuals. I've seen nowadays SMS messages, for those who still uses that, coming in from my CEO, saying, hey, you need to update this report. Would you please do this tomorrow, right? With a nice link underneath. Those are the simple examples of still social engineering attacks. But it keeps coming, and it gets more sophisticated. There is no typo error anymore in that message, whether it's localized in a local language like the Finnish, or in Dutch, or in English, or Spanish, whatever. Think also about supply chain issues. We've all seen the problems arise with the log-J4 vulnerability. And other examples in the history as well. Too much to explain, but you can imagine that even you're running software yourself from a well-respected vendor, you still need to maintain, you still need to patch, you need to protect, etc. This is going to be a little bit of eye chart, and I realize that. But if you talk to the typical CISO in a company, Security Information Officer, these are probably around 80 controls that they need to address in their organization. And it depends on the large and the size of the organization, how much they are involved into this. But these are the mapping that we could do with a company from an average scale, right? Imagine that you are just 100 people large, and you have to protect yourself on all these assets, right? It's a nightmare. And who to choose? Who is the best guy on the platform, or who's bringing me the right solution to protect all those control mapping? Luckily for us, right, we are, as you see these circles, present in a majority of those elements. And that brings that we gather technology intelligence from all of those angles. Whether it's from infrastructure, it's from the endpoint, it's coming from the network, on the IoT side, etc. I'm going to make switching gears here for a second, because there's also one of the analyst companies, you probably are familiar to them, the Gartner guys, must raise the bell. And we see, and they acknowledge the fact that our the world, the enterprises that we have in our world, are going through a digital transformation phase, whether they like it or not, right? It's technology-driven, as been said in this morning's keynote presentation. We want to do more with less and cheaper and so on, right? That means that with this digital transformation, we would like to bring a new vision, and not per se to the market, but it's more like a convergence between how network traffic is being analyzed and how we can even make some security models obsolete. We spoke about remote workforce. Where's the perimeter of my defense? So on the left side, we see typically network technologies being brought to a platform which is cloud first. Think about the WAN optimization, quality of service, CDN, etc., etc. On the other side, you see the 180 degrees different view. It's more like security-enabled solutions. So, such as a cloud proxy, SSL decryption, CASB, zero trust network access, you can name them, all bring together. And what is the SASE world? Service edge. Bringing to you, it's a convergence of secure access of the service edge. We can debate about the A, because once Gartner announced his vision back in 2020, if I'm not mistaken, we thought there was a quicker convergence between those markets. But today the reality is that we see that the cloud platform really focuses itself on around security solutions. The ingredients of that cloud security solutions is that it's context aware, it provides threat prevention, and it embraces the identity. So the identity is leading or following policies, etc. Let's talk about the cloud for a second, because we all have our ideas about that. It's also said on the screen, right? Also known as somebody else's data center. What is AWS? What is Google? What is Alibaba? What is Amazon? It's actually just a bunch of servers in a rack, somewhere nicely located around the world. So is there a definition of actually what a cloud is? Maybe we can debate about that, but I don't think that is particularly. Is it indefinite? Maybe. Can we build a multi-cloud environment? Probably, yes, right? I think it's good, because you don't want to bet all your money on one horse. And are all clouds good, right? If something in this world is getting into a trend state, it means that it attracts bad people as well, right? How many times haven't we seen that a storage bucket on the AWS has been compromised and malicious content has been provided through that environment? So it's definitely not always good. It can cause you a hurricane situation. Nice looking clouds. How does that tie together? Sounds good, right? But if you're building a solution that is provided between multi-clouds, you can bring up things like latency, service chaining, isn't what you really want. And how do you want to prevent something, the pinpointing to each other? Who is there as an incident? Who's responsible for that? And who's following which kind of service level agreement? So in the real world, what we really like is that service chaining isn't necessary, that latency is no longer a problem, because we all want to have a proper user experience, because if end users doesn't have the right response, they will divert, they will circumvent your solution set. And we want to provide the right level of security. Service level agreements are simplified. And nevertheless, it needs to be hybrid. We are also sometimes in the office, sometimes at home, maybe at McDonald's, maybe somewhere else on a hotspot. So it's a hybrid situation, which is really necessary in this case. Coming to that point, obviously, Symantec has released its data-centric hybrid security vision for that, to match the ID that Gartner has brought to market with the right solution set, coming all the way across from the endpoint protection with which kind of device you're using, all the way to protecting the application on the other side. Whether that application runs in your private data center, in a public cloud infrastructure, or maybe you've purchased it through a SaaS environment. Let's skip this slide. What it means is that it's in one single data path, we deliver multiple services that could provide you the right level of policy control, security metrics, etc. But also intelligence. Think about the integration of other technologies, web isolation, but also data loss prevention. If we put ourselves at risk by putting a sensitive document in an online storage environment, which is shared with who else in the world, that could cause us a compliance risk issue. And that's what definitely we don't want to do. But you would like to have a complete overview and control over that, all the way through the different entities, whether it's web or it's SaaS applications you're running. Where should we start? Because you can imagine that if you want to have that single path, and you are of the approach that in the history, we took the right solution set for the right use case, we might run ourselves into problems. We might end up with a full scale, like I showed earlier on the stage, a broad map of all kind of vendors providing us the right solution. So this is more like a warning state, right? Because in that SASE environment, if you adopt to that digital transformation with SASE, this might be a red flag, right? You don't want to end up with this solution for security proxy environment, that solution for CASB, another solution for DLP, and so on and so on. So that's why you will see myself, but also my colleagues around here today on the vendor market, providing that platform kind of approach. And I can assure you that Symantec is not started yesterday on that platform approach as I showed over the years, right, in the timeline. So don't worry too much, but put it in your head as a requirement. So if you decide to go to one direction, think about the broader scope rather than per se the specific element itself. Build this idea of selecting the right vendor around a security plan, right? Which you can find with confidence, with clear targets and goal settings. But also think about the technical implications of that solution set. Can I put a policy that is going all the way through, whether it's come from an endpoint into the cloud infrastructure? And interoperability, so excuse me. You don't want to service chain multiple clouds to each other. So keep that in mind, right? It's not very efficient if you have to go from Google's infrastructure back to AWS and then back to Microsoft, for example, right? Wrapping it all up, Symantec Enterprise Cloud is our solutions, our go-to-market, our solution set for bringing all the technologies together, whether it's from an email security point of view, all the way to endpoint information security, and with cloud secure web gateway infrastructures. That's what I had in mind for today to share with you. So thank you very much for your attendance. Is there any questions? Or are there any questions left?
Finns are usually quite quiet when it comes to questions. because we listen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.